Hey guys, I've got a quick update I wanted to give you just from our last video. First and foremost, I found out that you guys like free stuff.
I like
Free stuff.
and I cannot lie.
And I heard from a lot of you. That was a lot of fun. And actually, many of you made funny comments. Thank you for that. But I wanted to give you an update that I've given away everything that we had for free. We did dehumidifiers, we did challenge coins, we did some books, and people have been buying things from our holiday gift ideas. You can find that on our website right here. People have been buying things, and there's still time before and after Christmas. Believe it or not, people still like getting gifts after Christmas. So all of my giveaways are gone, and even though I love to hear from you, you don't have to tell me you like free stuff. We will do that again real soon. I promise in the first year we'll do that. Now, I also have a couple of updates on that video, and then I want to show you two new guns, again, real quick. So the first update was this gun. So this is just a really nice commercial PP, and if you remember, I said H.J. Harms was probably a retailer in Bremen. And then also, I didn't understand the inscription underneath. Well, a shout out to Frank and Dieter, who both did a little bit of research, and they found out that the Harms family, actually, they were merchants in the Bremen area, and some of their descendants are still there doing business, not a gun shop, but they're still doing business there. And the inscription on the last line, by the way, is a street address. So as I conjectured, I didn't know for sure, but we did find that this was a retailer in Bremen, and the address is what's inscribed on here. This gun is still available and on my website, but thank you to many of you who contributed so we could solve the mystery of this marking, which again is not a factory marking, but was done by the retailer who sold this gun. Only one I've ever seen. I'm sure there's more out there. I'm hoping through your diligence we can maybe find one or two more. Now, the second update I wanted to give you, this is even cooler. So this was the infrared M1 sniper scope. It's actually not even a sniper scope, more of an infrared night sight scope. Because, and I mentioned it has a large infrared bulb, and then the scope which can see the infrared image. I mentioned it takes a 6-volt battery, and I also said I don't think they were used at all in World War II by the U.S. Army. I was wrong. And at least one person figured that out. I actually figured it out right after I did the video. I saw Ian had done one, and he highlighted the M3. So he mentioned right at the end of the war, 1940, late 44, early 45, they did issue a few hundred of these, and they were used in Okinawa. Now, it makes perfect sense because I said how heavy this was. This whole assembly is very heavy, but he said they were used as defensive positions at night, of course. They would set them up around the perimeter. And at night, the Japanese were renowned for trying to sneak up and see where your defenses were, where the machine guns were, trying to get intelligence at night. Well, the U.S. Marines and the U.S. Army, who stationed their men around the perimeter, could see at night. I'm sure the Japanese had no idea what was going on, but they said they were very effective in killing hundreds of Japanese soldiers who were trying to sneak into their ranks at night. So it was used in World War II by the Germans, but also by the United States. Now, what's even cooler about this story is I wanted to give you this update. I did find a guy who believes he can get this back to working order. I searched the internet and I couldn't find any examples of a working M3 or T3 infrared scope. Couldn't find a single one. And I don't think Ian has ever even shot one. So if I can get this thing working, I'm going to challenge Ian to come on out to Legacy again, and we'll take him out at night and let him shoot something with the infrared scope. This would be an epic video. So stay tuned. I hope we can make this happen. Okay, now some time for new materials. I wanted to show you this officer pistol because I've actually shown you before. This one is very cool. They all look about the same. And they can either be a 1908, which is 38 caliber, or a model 1903, which is 32 caliber. They basically work a little bit, the action is very similar to the 1911, but they're smaller, and they're known as officer's pistols. Now, you can see what's important about them is they will be marked U.S. property. You can see right here, it does say U.S. property, and I believe the original finish was more of a blue finish. We do see the polished blue finish here, both in 38 caliber and 32 caliber, and I believe they were all made around 1944, so the end of World War II. However, they only issued a few because a lot of officers already had the 1911 and they preferred the 1911. So there wasn't a lot of officers looking for one of these pistols. And this one is Parkerized. Most of the ones I see are Parkerized. I actually have two more on the floor. I'll show you real quick. Okay, I mentioned I have a couple more on the floor. 137 is the one that I wanted to highlight because it went to a Major General Thomas Sherburne, and I'm going to talk about his career. You can see that it has the stallion here and also a cartouche. It's a cross-cannon cartouche. They're always really faint. Again, I believe they were originally blued. Most of them were originally blued. Many of them, after the war, were sent to the Rock Island Arsenal. And then they called them up for officers that went to Korea, also Vietnam. And some were given away as retirement gifts, and this would be one of those. Actually, this looks like original finish. And this one, I believe, would have been Arsenal, Rock Island Arsenal Parkerized or reparkerized. So this was probably made in 44, originally blued and then Parkerized. This one actually looks, the marking looks crisp enough that I believe this is the original finish. And this is also a 1903 in 32 caliber. The bottom of the magazine is usually marked. The caliber 38 or 32 is at the bottom. One other one that I picked up, and this one also looks reparkerized. You can see this is really dull here. The cartouche is barely visible. The stallion is barely visible. And this one went to Brigadier General Charles Barron. Now, I'll talk a little bit about him later, but he was a U.S. Army general who also turned out after the war to be a mobster. So we'll have to tell his story at a later time, but he inscribed his name very unprofessionally, but had his name inscribed on this pistol as well as 3 or 4 others. But let's get back to the pistol at hand, and that would be this one, which again was issued upon retirement in 1960 to a Major General Thomas Sherburne. This is also one of the original boxes that they were stored in. You can see it had another serial number crossed out. So I believe these were the boxes that they used to store them at the arsenal. And this number is crossed out. You can see the serial number and the name, and that's Thomas Sherburne written there. And the contents, again, I've seen other boxes like these, and they're numbered like that on the bottom. And they always come with a cleaning brush and also the manual. Oh, this one has a receipt. Let's see if there's anything in here. Nope, this just has a receipt. I don't think that's his initials, but I do have a letter that kind of shows the chain of ownership for this pistol. So Major General Sherburne, we see here, this is 1960. He retired right at the end. I believe it was actually the last day of the year in 1960. Maybe he didn't receive the pistol till 1961. I think it was shipped and got there a little bit late, but that's the serial number of the pistol. And it's called a sales record, but I'm sure it was gifted to him. He maybe had to pay the shipping, and that's all. But there's other documents in here that show that it was sent to him. Also here you see Sherburne. You also see another gun that was shipped. This is a requisition from Rock Island Arsenal, and they're just documenting that they sent 2 pistols out to these generals. Maybe both of them were retiring. We know that Sherburne was retiring, and it says, you know, basically it says keep track of the serial number and who they went to. So the U.S. Army or the Arsenal did keep track of these pistols and where they went. He got this pistol sometime in 60 or 61. And then later on, somebody bought it, I assume, after the death of General Sherburne, and was asking who was issued this gun. They got a letter back. Here it says sales and donations And this is dated 1994. So Mr. Mudge, who wrote this letter to the Army, say, "Can you tell me who got this pistol?" And they confirmed, "Dear Mr. Mudge," and this was from the woman who was in charge of these records, and it says it was sold to Major General Thomas Sherburne. And so that just confirmed the chain of ownership. From Mr. Mudge, it went to an auction, and I bought it on an auction. So I found a little write-up about General Sherburne, and I have to say, for being a major general, and especially all that he accomplished, there was very little available on the internet. Some of you will be able to find some things because you can get into some of the military archives. I actually found very few pictures of him. And again, due to his notoriety and some of the battles that he was in, I was surprised I didn't find more, but there was very little written. What I did find was that he was born in Manila, the Philippines, because he was born to a military family. His father was a colonel in the Army and stationed in the Philippines. But like most Army brats, by the way, if you're outside the United States, that's not a derogatory term. Anybody who grows up in the Army, they call them Army brats. Because they're usually moved all over the world, and that's certainly true of Thomas Sherburne. He went to Michigan State, where he participated in the National Guard. Then he ended up in Louisiana, and from there he was assigned to the Military Academy. He graduated and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1926. From there, he attended the infantry school in the early 30s and ended up in the Field Artillery Unit in 1932. So well before World War II, he was learning about field artillery, and that's where he spent most of his career as a leader within the field artillery. And let's talk a little bit more about that. In 1941, when the war was just beginning, he was assigned as a supply officer in the 4th Army. But in 1943, he was sent over to Europe. He joined the 7th Corps and actually was in a G2 intelligence unit. But early in 1944, he joined the 101st Airborne Division. He was with the 101st Airborne when they landed in Normandy. So he parachuted into Normandy behind enemy lines. And he was a part of a field artillery unit. I guess they were also parachuted in. And so he took part in the invasion in Normandy. Later, he landed by glider in September of 1944. He landed by glider into Holland. For those of you who have seen the movie A Bridge Too Far, they do highlight the activities of the paratroopers, the 101st Airborne, as well as British paratroopers, who paratrooped or glided into Holland and took over the bridges there. It had definitely had mixed results. For the British, it had terrible results, and if you watch the movie, you'll learn more about that. But General Sherburne was involved in that campaign as well. Later, during the Battle of the Bulge, when the 101st went into Bastogne, he was the general who commanded not only the 101st Division artillery, but also 12 other artillery battalions were under his command. After the war was over, General Sherburne returned to the United States in 1946, where he went to West Point, and he was one of the trainers there, or teachers, in teaching young cadets about artillery and taught them about ground arms warfare. After West Point, he was in executive office assigned to the 2nd Army from 1949 to 1951, and he was there the entire time. Other than this, I thought this was interesting. There was a 5-month period where he was assigned to a special mission in Saudi Arabia. In 1951, he was named chief of the 2nd Army, and he was assigned to the 82nd Airborne. So he served in the 101st Airborne and also the 82nd Airborne. In this 82nd Airborne, he once again was in charge of the field artillery. And in 1953, you'd think he would be done by now. No, sir. In 1953, he was sent to Korea, where he was the commanding officer of the artillery units from 1953 through 1954. In May of 1954, he then returned to the United States, where he was a commanding general of the Field Artillery Division in Fort Carson, Colorado, and he basically was training the troops in field artillery warfare. In June of 1955, he was promoted to Major General. In Fort Campbell, Kentucky, he ended up going back and being a commander in the 101st Airborne again. So he went full circle in terms of his combat career. Once he finished up at Fort Campbell, Kentucky in 1959, he was reassigned to the headquarters of the 7th Army of the United States, and from that position, he retired in 1960. He received a lot of medals and commendations, but the ones that stand out, while he was in the 101st Airborne Division in 1945, at the end of the war, he was awarded the Legion of Merit for exceptional and meritorious conduct in the performance of his duties. Then in 1954, he got an Army Distinguished Service Medal, and that was for his involvement in the Korean War. Once again, he had been named a Brigadier General, and his commendation was for exceptional and meritorious distinguished service to the government of the United States, and that was in 1954. And then finally, he got a second Distinguished Service Medal for his service to the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. He served as a Major General in the 7th Army, and that commendation was given to him in 1961. Remember, he retired in 1960. He got the pistol in 1960, I'm sure as a reward upon his retirement, and then this second Distinguished Service Medal was given to him in 1961. Now, speaking of Vietnam, here's a gun, just a good segue, another gun that you almost never see, very, very rare, came in this week, so I wanted to show it to you because it's a capture piece from Vietnam. Okay, this is a Chinese Tokarev Type 54, and the ones that I've seen in the past, finding the gun is not that unusual because a lot of them were sold or sent to the United States as war surplus after Vietnam. This one, they almost always have this corduroy inside. I don't know if that's Chinese or who made that, but I do see the corduroy, the blue corduroy, quite often. The rest of this looks almost like a Radom holster, but it's slightly different. Radom holster will have a circle here, but this is the belt and the buckle. And again, captured in Vietnam, there's the buckle. So this would be the North Vietnamese Army. Let's take a look at the pistol itself. Before I put this away, I'll just point out that is the cleaning rod that goes on the side, and then of course the spare magazine would go here. But let's take a look at the pistol. And then the coolest part will be the capture papers. Now, this pistol, it does have a high polish finish. It looks like a standard Chinese Tokarev. A lot like the Russian. The Russian guns will be usually from the Tula factory, and they'll have a Russian marked grip. This just has the star, a Chinese product. You can see here the serial number. And also Chinese, I believe that's the factory. But there's the serial number, and you'll take my word for it that this serial number matches this serial number. And then also 1966. So that was right in the midst of the Vietnam War. Not a bad looking gun. These are almost always very pitted and worn. This is not worn very much. Maybe it was an officer's pistol. That would make sense. It would be an officer's pistol. You do see some pitting here. Again, Vietnam being a very humid climate. The magazines were numbered, and it would come with 2 matching magazines right here. This one, however, does not match, but it is a correct magazine. Again, a Type 54. And let's take a look at the capture papers. So this was actually called a war trophy. In World War II, we always called them bring-back papers. He did cover up his service number, but there's the name of the veteran who brought it back, and he was from Michigan. Chi-Com pistol, Type 54. There's the serial number and the caliber. Country of origin is Communist China. It's signed by his commanding officer. And where he was stationed, the Long Bin Post. So some of you who served might know where that is. This basically says the same thing. It has his Michigan address. So the period that he was in service, Eric Reed, was basically 1 year. You see, he got there in January, and he left at the end of the year. So that's a fairly short stint. And again mentions the pistol with one clip, so it didn't have the spare clip when he took it home. And there's the commanding officer, Ben No. These are the notes, and I haven't located the veteran, but it basically describes the gun, that it came with a belt and a cleaning rod. It's not signed, but I can assure you that this came with the gun. But what's important, it says field-issued weapon, battlefield capture after the enemy ambush in Vietnam in 1970, carried home by Bronze Star recipient. So Eric Reed, somebody can check that out. If it's not accurate, let us know. But to the best of my knowledge, it's accurate that Eric Reed brought this back, and he was a Bronze Star recipient. This is the final document, and it was cleared to code to, that's the continental United States. Us is continental United States for those of you who are not in the U.S., and it just repeats the same information. So for those of you who are Vietnam veterans, you can probably speak to this. We very rarely will see capture papers. Well, actually, they call it a trophy document. These were trophies brought home. It must have been very hard to do. You know, I do talk to vets who are in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they are gun collectors, and they'll say, I did everything I could to bring home a trophy, and they just wouldn't let us. It was very, very difficult. You had to know somebody. You had to fill out the paperwork. You could not sneak it on a plane. You went through metal detectors. They searched your luggage. They searched your duffel bag. World War II, it seems like they were a lot more lax, and a lot of people were able to get the documents or sneak them home. Whatever the case, it's very rare to find a Vietnam capture paper document with a gun that was brought back. That was supposed to be a quickie, but actually you got a lot of good information there. Now stay tuned, because I also rescued some more guns from Canada. Here's a picture of some of them that I just got in. And so my next video, I'm going to go over the rescues from Canada. Again, I got some Lugers. These are not pristine condition. They are all about average condition, but I want to show them to you and give you a little bit of education about the German Luger and some of the different variations. I hope you have a very happy holiday. Thanks for watching, by the way, and learning a little bit more about an officer pistol along with a Vietnam bring back. Hey, thanks for watching, and thanks for your support throughout the year. We've had a great year. I've mentioned that before. I'm really looking forward to 2022, and I hope we can get that infrared M1 carbine going, because I know you're going to love watching me shoot that. Instead of shooting an animal, which I wouldn't want to do, I'm thinking I light a jack-o'-lantern at night and then take it out with my M1. What do you think? Stay tuned.